So now Pam Bondi's the Attorney General. Kash Patel runs FBI. Dan Bongino right beneath him. I mean, there are people who say they're reform-minded. I think Bongino is reform-minded, for the record. But there are people of good faith, I think, in positions of authority in federal law enforcement now. What should they immediately declassify, disclose, stop efforts to hide about the Oklahoma City bombing 30 years ago that could resolve all these questions? Like, what should we know that we don't?
Release the videotapes of the bombing.
Yeah.
Let America see this movie. As well, and maybe just as important, maybe more important, and Jesse has a letter on Attorney General Bondi's desk as of March, which says, stop the DOJ resistance to unsealing the FBI whistleblower's deposition. This is where potentially he laid out the entire scope of the Patcon program, which nobody knows about. On the record, the FBI will say, oh, Patcon was just this little operation we had, just lasted for 2 years, and it was just targeting 3 extremist right-wing groups. No, John Matthews, their top spy, says, I worked Patcon for 8 years and I infiltrated 22 groups. And he says Patcon was run out of the White House, and Patcon was even involved in Waco, and Patcon was a precursor to Fast and Furious that included gun walking, illegal ammunition and gun sales. It was an octopus of a surveillance program. And that was the 1990s. And the lid has been kept on it while all these other things happened that we are talking about and perhaps might have been prevented.
It'd be interesting to know what's going on now. I mean, as someone who's been in, around right-wingers his whole life, I don't know a lot of potential bombers, not kind of that sort of right-winger, but you wonder how many people, if the government has decided that everyone to the right of Chuck Schumer is a security risk, and they have, anyone who opposes our program is a security risk. Anyone who's not on board with totally destroying the country is our enemy, and that's their view for sure. Then you wonder how many people they are collecting information from, how many people they are sending money to, how many people are in effect federal informants at some level at some time in their lives.
I did some research on this for the last chapter of the book, and
I can think of a few, by the way. I've always wondered, people I know personally. What is that person?
It's a staggering prospect, and the latest stats that I heard was that on any given day, the FBI has 15,000 informants out there working, spending like over $40 million a year on this, and think about what it is their frontline jobs, bad enough, like betraying their families, friends, and work associates. But then to complete their projects, they're committing crimes, and their managers are looking the other way, and nobody seems to be keeping tabs on this, which has definitely increased exponentially since 9/11.
Has there been any reform at all in the past 6 months that you've noticed? Because I haven't noticed any reform at all.
No. And we both know that, again, it's this slow walk. The allegation from the January 6th detainees is that there was a heavy infiltration by the federal government. And this has been batted around Capitol Hill now.
So why can't we get an answer?
Chuck Grassley and someone else have a letter now on the desk of...
Why should they have a letter? I mean, Republicans control the Department of Justice, so I don't understand what the motive is here. I mean,
Well, this could be...
How many federal law enforcement officials and or informants were in the crowd on January 6th? Simple question. Why can't we get that answered? I don't understand it. It's not enough to pardon people. It's like, what the hell just happened? And what are they doing now? And why can't I know? I live here. I'm a citizen. No? Do you feel the frustration?
Absolutely. And maybe this is the answer to your question. What can Attorney General Bondi's Department of Justice do right now? We'll answer that question.
One of the truest observations ever, it's hard to have a good time if you're stuck in bad boots. And that's why you need Tecovas. They make it easy for anybody, including people like us, hardly experts in boot fashion, to find the perfect boot. Here at TCN, we love Tecovas boots. Everybody's got them. You can find us wearing our favorite pair during the day or an evening out, not even line dancing, anywhere. Tecovas crafts quality Western boots for everybody. Generational ranchers, lifelong cowboys to first-time buyers. They handcraft their boots over 200 meticulous steps to create broken-in comfort the second you get them right out of the box. The difference is obvious when you put them on. It's unbelievable, actually. You never know that they were brand new. There's no compromise between quality and style. There's a reason Tecovas gets such high reviews from everybody. It's the total package. Get 10% off at tecovas.com/Tucker when you sign up for an email and text alert. That's 10% off at Tecovas, TECOVAS.com/Tucker. Honor the West by leaving your own boot print. Tecovas.com/Tucker. How could you have the biggest terror attack, domestic terror attack in U.S. history, destroy, the downtown of a major American city, and you don't, over 30 years, you don't find the second guy?
That's a great question.
Well, let's just go back. Are we sure there was a second guy?
Although it has been disputed. We're sure because, first of all, 24 ordinary people in Oklahoma City who eventually were interviewed by the FBI about the bombing run, 24 eyewitnesses saw Timothy McVeigh with a second man in the Ryder truck. So we know he was there. As you can remember, the investigation was a very big deal for a very long time.
Yes.
Journalism covered it, and top journalists reported that the FBI had surveillance videotape, because of course that's what they do in a big crime like this. They went out and collected all the videotape, and they had John Doe 2 with Timothy McVeigh on videotape delivering the bomb. They had videotape of the bomb exploding. The preliminary hearing for the case was held a week or so after the crime, and the videotapes were discussed there. The FBI agent on the witness stand admitted that the FBI had videotape of the delivery of at least of the truck on its way to deliver the bomb. So we know that John Doe 2 was real.
Well, now I'm really confused because why is John Doe 2 not at the top of the FBI most wanted list as a perpetrator of the country's worst domestic terror attack in its history?
Pretty soon, and in puzzling fashion, considering that this was the biggest manhunt in history. It was a global manhunt. There was a $2 million reward offered for the identification and capture of John Doe 2. But pretty soon, within a couple of months, the FBI began to back away from John Doe 2. They produced a new theory that John Doe 2 was a case of mistaken identity, that the staffer that was the basis of the sketch at the body shop was mistaken, that he was really talking about a completely innocent soldier who...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to hold this up. So this is the flyer produced by the FBI after the terror attack, right? So I believe that turned out to be Tim McVeigh right there.
Believed to be Timothy McVeigh. Our investigation would raise some questions about that, but yes, a lookalike for Timothy McVeigh or a lookalike for
But
Timothy
at least we
McVeigh.
can kind of account for this guy, whether it's the correct accounting or not.
Absolutely.
This is the sketch of John Doe number 2. This is produced by the feds. This is FBI.
FBI.
Okay. So, and this person has never been identified. No one's looking for him, and the FBI is now saying he never existed.
That's correct.
Okay. Given that you had dozens of people identify this person as a person, as being alive and being with Tim McVeigh, dozens of people, and given that the FBI itself said, yeah, he existed, on what basis are they now saying he never existed?
Well, a couple of months later, they introduced a new story. This was that the man believed to be John Doe 2 was this innocent soldier who had come into the body shop the day before and had somehow been mistakenly time traveled into the memory of the mechanic who gave the info about the sketch, but that it was all just a mistake, that Timothy McVeigh was by himself. It was never a very credible explanation.
Did they identify this?
Yes, they identified him. They talked to him. They found that, he had the baseball cap that some of the witnesses had described John Doe 2 wearing, and he was in with a friend, so the two of them were together, and it was somewhat credible, or credible enough, and they were very certain and confident about it, and the story began to change.
So they said, if I'm following this, that actually some other guy and a buddy walked into the same body shop around the same time, and the guy at the body shop just misremembered and thought that guy was with Tim McVeigh.
That's right.
But he wasn't.
That's right.
And so the FBI is now saying that Tim McVeigh did this alone.
Yes.
Okay. How do they explain away the eyewitness testimony of people who were there at the scene and saw them both in the truck together?
Tucker, that is one of the abiding questions never answered about this case. And as a matter of fact, years later, after some of the controversies that would, develop, one of the top case commanders, Danny Carlson, conceded that this single fact of 24 eyewitnesses who saw John Doe 2 in the bomb truck with Timothy McVeigh is not something that can just be explained away with this new story.
I have an idea. Let's go to the videotape. There was videotape that was admitted, you said, on the stand by a federal officer, that they had the videotape. So that would just show where's the video. Have you seen the videotape?
No one, Tucker, has seen that videotape
in 30 years?
Outside the FBI.
In 30 years, they've never produced that.
They've never produced it. And imagine this was an incredibly high-profile mass murder trial. Those images were not shown at the trial. The videotape was not shown at the trial.
It was not shown at the trial?
No.
Why?
Well, that's never been credibly answered by the FBI.
Okay. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.